Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next painting webinar, Veggie Jesus. Today is December. I have to think twice. It's Friday. No, it's Friday? Yeah, Friday, December the 18th, 2020. Thanks for being here. We're super excited. And Jen, how are you?
Hi, I'm awesome. I'm super excited to be here. I cannot wait to see these awesome paintings. This is such a fun idea. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. Well, was it last Friday that you had the shooting? The
Yeah,
Okay,
last
yeah.
Friday. So
Wow.
I'm happy to be back. Yay.
We missed you. Yeah.
Missed you guys.
But yeah, so thanks for being here. The introduction is out, so we're not going to go into any of those details. I just rewatched it yesterday, and I was between laughing at myself and just putting my hands on my face. It was just so crazy. But thanks for being such great sports. I don't know what this expression is coming from, but yeah. So you watched some of the images. I'm glad that you picked. I can't wait. Thanks for picking these wonderful, sweet, lovely subjects. And I'm just gonna get. I had a little bit of a difficult time selecting, and it was so hard. I just I didn't know what to choose. So just finally I went for Miss Aubergine. I don't know. I was debating back and forth, and yeah, I went for it, and I'm gonna do the aubergine and the hand actually, because I feel like that just kicks up the narrative a notch. So and I just didn't center it or didn't crop it. I love the off center composition, and something's happening here, and I don't know why. Okay, here we go. But that's what I'm gonna choose, and I'm gonna go right ahead. My format is 12 by 16, portrait orientation, vertical, and rectangular. And I've chosen this again just because it's a little bit larger. And I'm now familiar with this size. And the other day I was finishing my self portrait with a mask, and it was 9 by 12, and I thought that was too small. But 9 by 12 is good if you intend to work on it today and maybe another session. This is a little bit larger, so it will require at least 2 sessions, if not more. So first thing that you've got to do is find out the format that you are going to be painting on, the size, the orientation. Next, how are you going to translate the image in regards of like composition? So some of the images are squares, some of them are not perfectly rectangular. So there's going to be some sort of like cropping. So be mindful about um, the orientation. This is something that Sarah Jennings is not here today. We just have to gossip every time. But it's something that always baffles me, because Sarah Jennings, and I will tell her that she has this thing about choosing an image that has uh, horizontal orientation, and then she does it in a vertical orientation. So she's done it a few times, a couple of times at least, and I never question it. But my point is that if you want to do something like that, be mindful about the new um, arrangement on your format, because things are going to be different. You may have to crop things, you may have to do different things. So um, you can do it, and she does it for specific reasons. But if you do it, if you choose something vertical and you want to do horizontal, know that you're going to have. And Laura also, is Laura here? Oh no, she's traveling. Sometimes she also chooses different arrangements and orientations on her image, and then different formats. So first things first, check out the format and check out the image reference. In regards of the surface, I'm using cotton paper. Um, if you're using a canvas board, it's just going to give you a different uh, result. So be mindful of the canvas board. You may need more paint. If you're using a board, that's the ultimate surface. If you're using something non-porous, it's going to drip a lot. So every single surface provides a different engagement with the paint. So to me, the most challenging is the canvas board. I just did a couple of paintings for a show that I didn't send the email about yet, but I will today. And I chose oval stretched canvases, and I got them at the store, and I put like almost 5 coats of gesso and I sanded them because I cannot stand the micro pockets on a raw pre-primed canvas board or canvas. I need to put a bunch of gesso to make sure that I have no micro pockets. So all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead, and I have a Kinko's nearby, and I ventured out in this horrible time just because it facilitates, for 2 reasons. It facilitates the translation, and also I only have one cell phone available, so I cannot use that to look at the image. You don't have to have this, but what I do is I work by horizontal alignments. So yeah, and I set up my image a little bit lower. I wanted the hand crop at the bottom. In fact, I'm just gonna lower this a tad more. Um, don't rush. Don't start like with wet paint yet. That's my advice. Um, be thoughtful in regards of composition. Bringing up Sarah Jennings and totally gossiping, and you can just talk to her and tell her she's been painting with us for what, 9, 10 years, and composition, it's still something that I feel it's not super clear. There's always some issues with composition after 9 or 10 years painting with us. Probably 9, I think, right? Jen, how long have we been doing this? Who knows?
I know, so long. At least 10 years, because Carl and I have been married for 10 years, and I've doing this way before we were married. So
Wow. Okay, well,
I
there you
don't
go.
know. 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that is the thing. The thing is that, we think like practice and time, but there are certain things that that may become challenging. Orientation and composition is one of them. All right, so I'm just kind of like giving this um, alignment, the aubergine. Again, I just love. This is something that I love about printing this image out. I wasn't sure about this thing right here, and I thought it was kind of like a dented thing on the aubergine, but in fact, it is a third arm. So this aubergine has one arm on the left, one arm on the right, and then one arm that's foreshortened. So I only saw this arm after I printed it. So I wonder how I'm gonna do this, but it's okay. I'm not worried. I just like the 2 arms, and this is a good baby Jesus surrogate. And anyhow, so I'm gonna go ahead with my potato shapes right now. So I work fast, and I'm also going to create an axis line. So that wouldn't be a bad idea to just set yourself an axis line. And in a way, what I'm doing right now is my own specific grid applied to my image. Grids to translate don't have to be necessarily just equidistant and perfectly regular. A couple of axis lines and some horizontal alignments allow me to have an idea of orientation. And then what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to establish the potato shape. In many ways, this will have some similarities with the mushrooms. And in that sense, I'm happy that there's going to be some forgiving aspects about it. But as we know, things could be deceptively difficult. So this is my initial potato shape. I work fast with the charcoal. The idea here is to allow myself to study the arrangement of the subject inside of the format and the orientation and the shape that I'm using. So this is crucial. This is very important. This is when I know that I have to spend time making sure that I locate things where I want them based on the edges of the, yeah. And if you notice, I already started like wiping things off, wiping charcoal off, because I just want to make sure that I give, this makes me very nervous. The fact that this arm is really close to the edge makes me nervous. As I usually say, we think like the edge is right there and that's the limit. But in fact, the edges of a painting, I believe they act almost as magnets. Anything close to the edge of a painting, even though it may not be cropped, it may be so close that it may look like it's cropped. I don't know how to articulate that effect, and I'm sure there is a name for it. But what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to move the aubergine a little bit further um, to the right. And here's when we have to start letting go of any lines that we may have at the beginning, because we will see things that we want to change. Okay, I think I feel a little bit more comfortable with the amount of space, but still, let me just, yeah, I think with the crow, I believe, I'm not sure who, maybe it was Julie. I think you chose an image that had some lines of the crow really close to the edge and you actually pulled it closer to the middle. I forgot who it was, but that was brilliant and that takes courage. All right, so two factors here on this premise: shape and I would say texture, because there are some potatoes and carrots. And so don't start or don't avoid going to the texture too early, because that's not important right now. Shape and location are important right now. I'm so happy with this little aubergine. It's so cute. Um, so okay, so I think I'm slowly getting into the outline. I haven't done any structural lines. Well, this could be a structural line, but and again, I just want to make sure that I'm happy with the composition. All right, so I'm just gonna go. It was so funny. I was just looking at images. It was interesting to look for images of funny looking vegetables, fruits and vegetables, and yeah, lots of carrots and radishes, and lots of them um, in very erotic arrangements. So there's always like a third leg, I guess. And then the ones that had more of the other gender were tomatoes, folds of tomatoes. They, yeah. So anyhow, so I think I didn't put any. What do you want? I'm sorry, no, I can't. Well, it's just gonna say hello, and that's it. You gotta go. Okay, so I say hello. Okay, perfect. Bye. And but no, 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 no. Okay, so some things that we can reapply or bring from the mushroom paintings. Think of the tendency that we have to make things way too regular, curves, straight lines. So uh, importing or bringing in some excessively regular lines um, may stifle the illusion of something that is natural and organic. And we may end up doing something stiff and too rigid. So I'm inviting you to consider to even not only recognize that, but perhaps even exaggerate some of those rugged areas, um, curves, growths. Make sure that they don't become too regular, too aligned with verticals or horizontals, too artificially cylindric looking. Um, and so that would be my advice in regards of carrots, potatoes, or anything like that. Uh, it happens with trees. We tend to make branches of trees very regular. Same on the left than on the right. Uh, yeah. Okay. So Jen, after the presentation, Amanda made a couple of comments on the post saying that I pronounced a couple of words not correctly. And
Oh no.
yeah, no, it was good. It was good. One, I kept saying manger, and
Oh, and it's manger.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She said like ranger, so I was like, oh
Oh,
crap.
funny.
And the other one was the city. Uh,
Oh, was it Duquesne? Was that what you were trying to say?
I think she mentioned a different. If you go to the post on Instagram, you're gonna see her comment. But I,
Okay, because I have to,
yeah,
I didn't tell you this yesterday, but I was like Googling, like trying to find these women, trying to find this exact thing that was happening, and I could not. And
oh
I was like,
gosh,
oh no.
yeah. So I think it's the view,
Dubuque. Yeah, Claire
Dubuque,
just posted it. Yeah. I
Dubuque.
mean, that's weird, but yeah, Duquesne is spelled in a very strange way too. So I had that on my mind, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It just
it's a
reminds me. I
toughie.
was thinking about it. I don't feel bad because naturally, this could be confusing if you've never said it. I
Oh,
remember, for example, first
completely.
time that I read the Broad Museum.
Right.
Listen, that's not the Broad. This is the Broad.
The broad. Yeah.
I just
You people are crazy.
it's just very interesting how certain last names, some people prefer a different pronunciation that initially
Mhm.
would people read. For example,
Right.
another one that I had a hard time was Ed Rouchet.
Right.
So the last name is not really Rouchet. It's how would you pronounce Rouchet? Russia,
Probably like Roush.
yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, a rush or yeah.
Yeah. And someone looked at me like, what? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So no, it's Rouchet. So
I
it
know.
happens with, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I've done that with you, in pronouncing other artist names as well. But yeah, Claire wrote in the chat that a lot of streets in Chicago have funny. Oh no, did she say streets in Chicago? I'm thinking of streets in LA. Oh yeah, she said streets. Chicago has a bunch of foreign names of streets that no one pronounces correctly, and it's the same here. Like when my family from Virginia comes and tries to pronounce La Cienega. And people say Los Feliz so many different ways. Some people say Los Feliz. Some people,
Oh,
and I say Los Feliz, and that could be so wrong.
but
But
no.
Sepulveda, forget it. I just die laughing at my mom, and she knows she can't say it correctly, so she stumbles big time because of it. So she's like Sepulveda, sep.
I I love that. I think that's wonderful. I think that's good. Yeah, never, it's okay. No, no, never mind. Yeah, I was just reflecting on that because my initial when I read the word and forget about like pronouncing German or French. Sometimes I bring up artists and I truly want to say the names with the right pronunciation, but it's just not possible. But I was just you know that that's the city, the name of the city, Dubuque. I think it's Dubuque. It ends
Mhm.
with Q-U-E. So for
Right.
whatever reason, I just thought of what's the city? Albu. Yeah, Albu.
Albuquerque.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I thought
Right.
this has to be the same thing. So
Right. That's the thing about English is the rules change all the time. We are it's amazing how many people are able to learn English because the rules don't stick.
no, which is amazing. It just tells you how rich and complex the language is. So, but it was so funny.
Oy. Wow, you did great. You
No.
constantly do great.
Thanks, friend. All right, so I'm just doing the third leg on this aubergine, and then I started I started to shade. I highly recommend jumping from silhouette to structural lines, which I did. Some of the lines separating the hand from the aubergine, and then on the cap. And also, I'm just gonna shade. The shading is gonna give me even more information about location and size, which is what I want. Uh, as any other subject, always be open to make dramatic changes. There's a chance that you may be doing this and you feel like, it's still too to the left or too high, and you want to change things dramatically. So this is the real challenge. When what are we going to do when that happens? Because it will happen at some point. We just have to be ready and prepared to make dramatic changes. And yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I also chose this image because of the simple background. I like this empty space. So I just wanted to make my life a little bit easier in that sense and not super complicated. I'm just going to make the stem or whatever that is a little bit lower. It looks like, I don't know what this could be, but I find it interesting. I was thinking, I almost thought at some point, and we may have done it. Have we done this premise before, Jen? Like weird shape fruits and veggies?
I know we did heart potatoes.
Right.
Um, I was trying to think of something similar. I feel like we've done objects before that are um, um,
Like anthropomorphic.
yeah,
For some reason, I just had a feeling that we've done something like that. But then as I was researching, I don't remember like actually creating a library or looking at images. So maybe it was just the heart-shaped potatoes.
maybe, yeah. Maybe we jumped into a few other things. Yeah, but oh my gosh, the carrots. Oh, wow. How cool are they? I was going to say that I don't know if you follow Amy Schumer on Instagram. She's a comedian and
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
married to a chef.
Oh,
And I just caught bits of it, but evidently her husband found this crazy carrot that was, let's just say, looked like the bottom half of a man,
okay.
legs and all. And so she, had this whole post about it, and then she ended up framing it. I'll add it to the photos.
Please.
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious, and
Like
the whole
recently?
recently, and underneath she put, "This is a carrot." It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
But just in our talk about streets, Julio,
Yeah.
one more thing I was thinking of
Yeah.
is, um, the city of Houston in Texas, and then it's Houston Street in New York City, and they're
Oh.
spelled exactly the same way. And if you say Houston in New York, you are a tourist like no other. So it doesn't, the rules, there's no rules.
I know. Which reminds me, and I don't want to take too much time from the webinar, but it reminds me, in the UK. I mean, here already all these things, but in the UK, it's like even I would say it's even worse because there's this square in London. It's Grosvenor Square, but
Mhm.
the way it's written, it's like Grosvenor or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And oh boy, I think I just like said it in front of like someone who was a friend,
Oh, thank
and
God.
he looked at me like he corrected me in such an apathic way, like it's Grosvenor.
I
Gosh, so I mean, they're so good at making you feel like crap when you.
Totally. And no one does that like Londoners and New
I know.
Yorkers, man.
I'm taking advantage of Hania not being here, but she probably
Right.
agrees.
Yeah, she does.
I'm traumatized by that. So now it's like, no, it's Grosvenor. So okay, so I think I'm just continuing with and time wise, okay, I think I'm just gonna give myself maybe a couple more minutes. What's important here before you jump onto wet, if you have already, that's totally fine. It's two things: the location of your subject in comparison with the edges, um, and also how much space are you giving to the surroundings. It's not that it's going to be right or wrong if you crop it or if you put it too close, but it's important for me to mention the challenges from the um, point of view of a viewer that something close to the edge or crop may represent. The fact that you are interrupting the flow of the visual path looking at the subject. Naturally, when we look at something in an image, we look at what stands out, but then after that, we sort of like wander around. Um, so when you put something really close to an edge, we interrupt that flow. Um, and sometimes that's what we want, and sometimes that creates an unsettling experience or raises the level of um, unsettlingness, whatever that word is. But it's better to not do it first and be familiar with that, and then do it when we really want um, the viewer to experience that. So let's put it this way. I always say be familiar with tradition and then break it. That's my approach to learning something, um, I think. All right, so I'll deal with the fingers a little bit later, but I'm happy with this. I'm going to be ready, I said a couple of minutes. So I don't want to turn this into a drawing. So that's also very important. And that weighs on my thinking process right now. If I just push the drawing too much and and I spend time adjusting and redoing, I may just push the drawing too much into, or the sketch too much into the drawing aspect. So I just need a draft, a crocus. I just need like something that allows me to get some sort of orientation for the next step. And I think that's enough. So I'm gonna use the palette that I used yesterday for the maskies, just because it's still wet. But I'm just gonna focus on the palette, and I'll tell you that I got my two whites. I got the gray, and I got the two blacks, Payne's Gray and Van Dyke Brown. I got my four browns right here: raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and ecru. So what I call primary neutrals here, and what I call secondary neutrals here. And then I got my two light neutrals, the salmon rose and periwinkle. They're two pale colors that have a lot of white. One is warm, one is cold. And we use Gamblin. So the name of the color, if you have Gamblin, is Radiant Red and Radiant Blue. So two liquids, mineral spirits here, and then a combination of poppy seed oil and non-toxic medium. And the combination is up to you guys. We suggest to sort of like have a synthetic medium rather than an oil. And it's flexible, and also the paint dries a little bit faster. Um, and but the reason why I put poppy seed oil is because it slows down the drying. So for me, since I want to work on this next week, if I mix the poppy seed oil here and I work with my palette, I know that the paint, at least on the bigger areas, it's going to be wet, um, not on the paper. And perhaps I should just try the freezing thing this week. Well, we'll see. And I'm just gonna get my big brush from the jar, and I'm gonna do the staining. And for the staining, I'm gonna use just the turpentine or the mineral spirits, the thinner solvent. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Yeah, and I'm gonna go darker to lighter. So identifying this area will be the darker. And I need a rag, a cotton rag. The idea is to move safely from dry medium to wet medium. And this is a very technical step, sorry, which involves priming the paper and sealing the charcoal so it's ready for the first notes. So I don't have to be extra careful or anything like that. I'm not going to blend anything or work on edges or anything of the like. So the only thing that I want, and I think this is Van Dyke Brown. So I'm going to get a little bit of the Van Dyke Brown. It's a little bit colder actually. So paint's gray. And the idea is just to block out. I'm blocking out from darker to lighter, just blocking out. I know that's going to be a little bit sloppy, but that's okay because I'll be able to refine, readjust things later. I was thinking, I forgot, I wanted to say so many things in the video yesterday, but I was thinking that this is a perfect subject because I feel like this holiday season, I feel it's been stolen from us in a way. So um, I forgot to mention it, but it's not just the funny aspect. And by the way, everyone, it was Charlotte who sent that article to us, or that post. I should have given you credit, Charlotte, in the video also. But yeah, what a great subject to reflect not only on the actual fact that this was happening, which I had no idea about, but also the fact that in a way, this is a perfect analogy or maybe metaphor of the season being kind of like stolen from us. And um, so yeah, we can always look back at this painting and say, this is when we didn't have the regular Hanukkah or Christmas. Yeah. Or whatever celebration or observance or non-observance. um, and Charlotte, I was kind of like analyzing or looking at the comments on the actual post. I don't know if you had a chance to do that, but there were some people really upset about um, the stealing this baby Jesus theft kind of thing. They were mentioning that, what a how insensitive to make fun of the Holy Family and all that kind of like nonsense. I was like, whoa, I better say something um, to make sure, because these days you just never know who's going to get offended by something. And that's one of the lessons for me that I'm taking from 2020. It's the fact that you think you know your friends and allies and everything, but this year has tested everyone's relationships because, yeah, you know. All right, so I'm just adding um, some highs and lows already. My mind is already going to details, and I shouldn't. So, and in regards of the color of the skin, um, I'm gonna use. I'm gonna be true to staining and use only one tone, and that's gonna be the burnt sienna, because this is a very traditional color to use for staining a portrait. So I'll just keep it really simple for now. Again, the function of the staining is just to seal the charcoal and prime the paper, and that's it. So it's not supposed to do um, anything else. And on the aubergine, I have already green on my palette, but I'm gonna also stick to traditional elements. So I'm just gonna do yellow ochre. And use the rag if you feel like it's overly dark or you need to wipe something off. It's not gonna remove the whole thing completely, but it will help you uh, lower the excess of whatever it is that it's happening. And then I'm just gonna bring some gray, and I'm gonna make a decision. Well, no, I'm not gonna make a decision. Actually, this was very good because I was gonna put some white mixed with the gray, and it's not a good idea to start using white early in the painting, um, just because it's difficult to make it darker on top. So I'm using gray, and a good way to make something really pale during the wash is to bring a lot of turpentine. So what I'll do instead is use only gray and tons of turpentine, and that will be enough to um, dilute the pigment without having to use white. I could be okay using white in other areas of the painting, just because it's such a large surface that I know if I put white on this area, I won't need to add anything darker over it. It's mostly things that are closer to a darker shade, because I know that it's going to be harder to manipulate the paint. So right now I'm essentially just using turpentine or mineral spirits rather, and a little bit of the paint, of the gray paint. I'm a proponent of removing the blankness of the painting surface completely. And I feel like it's better to just make sure that there's no glare, there's no blank space, nothing is affecting our decision-making process. Because when I leave something empty and blank, it just, it's there. It's so annoying. It affects my train of thought. It always asks me to do something with everything else. I cannot integrate everything. So I highly recommend, suggest, encourage you to stain the whole surface. You may use one single tone, one single color and make it monochromatic. I used four. The Payne's Gray, actually I switched it. Payne's Gray, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and gray. So all my three browns, the darker three browns, and then two primary neutrals, the gray and one of the blacks. So this would be my wash for after the sketch. Perfect timing. I'm really happy about time wise and the pace, because it gives me 15 minutes before the first hour to actually start thinking on the first notes. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna switch the brush. I'll explain what first notes are. It's good for my own sake. I like to enunciate the steps and the pace and what I'm going through, even when I paint on my own, just so I know where I'm at and I'm clear with the expectations. So first notes is when I build on the staining by creating color masses or color fields that are similar in value and in temperature. So I'm just gonna try to study the color of the green, the color of the aubergine, the color of the hand, and then apply a layer on top that's not gonna have as much turpentine. In fact, it's not gonna have turpentine. It's gonna have medium and sort of like blocking it out. So I have um, something that's not as transparent, that builds opacity, that has more of a sophisticated or elevated or well-studied color combination that initiates the process of determining where the edges may be located. So, but the core concept of first notes is color fields. So just one single area. I'll probably not uh, completely paint over the highs and lows on the aubergine, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so darker to lighter is better. So I think what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna use my painting hack. Let me just bring the medium brush. Oh, and by the way, I during the presentation, I mentioned and I said that I didn't find the name of the artist of the carrot that I used as cover, the carrot with legs and arms, and I was surprised to I found that reference, and that painting was um, um, okay. That painting was created by a guy from the Dutch Renaissance. I've never seen his name, but I added the name on the as a comment in the folder. So I was so pleasantly surprised because I thought, someone contemporary did this. This is so playful and such modern composition. So it had to be someone that was contemporary. And this is another wonderful experience in finding out that there's no such thing as contemporary and classic in painting. It's just painting, and uh, yeah, discovering that he painted it, and I think in the 1700s. I forgot, 16 or 1700s. Oh, there's a squirrel right there. Hi. Okay, that's cute. So medium brush. And the painting hack that I'm referring to that I highly recommend, and because it's super easy to set. And Charlotte, you just gave me this cellophane folder, so I've been using those things. I've been cutting them and using them. But if you don't have a cellophane folder or anything of the like, you can just use Ziploc and cut it so it gives a transparent surface that you can put on top of a screen. Screen would be a little bit complicated to do, but if you have a printout, you can use the printout. If you're doing things from live, you can also paint over the fruit that you may have by putting a little bit of a little section of the plastic. And the reason why I find this very helpful, it's because it allows me to actually study the tone. Um, So what I'm gonna do is, I think this is black, but I'm just gonna put black right on top. And I realize that it's very dark and it's very cold. So first things first, I'm just gonna, when I try to match a color or study a color, first thing that I do is I try to understand the value. So I'm gonna bring some gray on it, and find out, yeah, the value wise, this is better. So it's not a full black. It's actually black with a little bit of gray on it. So that's number one. So I got the value, and then the color, it's too cold. So I'm just gonna bring some burnt sienna perhaps and see if that color a little bit more. So I don't have purple on my palette, and I don't need it because I have a version of red and a version of blue. The version of red is the burnt sienna, and the version of blue is the paints gray. So I can get a dark purpley. It's so perfect right now. So perfect by just bringing those versions. So this, what I just did, and you guys, since you guys are pros, I highly recommend it because it allows me to study the color mixture and then understand what's in it, or what's the actual look of that color. So now that I have this mixture, I don't have to do this in every single part of the painting. But now that I did this mixture and I understood that there's much more of the burnt sienna that I anticipated, I can create variations and yeah, changes. So what I'm doing, on first notes with a medium brush and blocking out areas that I find darker. And at the same time, I'm gonna forget about the hand for 1 second. At the same time, I'm working on edges. So color fields and edges. I'm not blending, I'm not doing any small work or detail work right now. I'm just blocking out color fields. As we said, this is a little bit lighter, so I'm gonna put some more of the burnt sienna, maybe some more of the gray. So I'm making some adjustments already. But I'm not super careful or tidy. I'm a little bit tidier than the wash naturally, but it's not extremely careful. All right, so I'm just continuing with my first notes on the darker area. This is a subject that's challenging me because I feel like I would have started with something smaller, like the cap, instead of the big black area. And I recognize my subconscious saying, this is too hard. Don't go there. Just do something smaller. So I had to almost like force myself to or follow discipline, or I don't know what would be the expression, but I just had to tell myself, no, you're going to do the bigger challenging thing first, and then you're going to go to the hand, because otherwise we tend to go with what's comfortable or what we perceive as comfortable. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now, just blocking out color fields. Very important. We're not there yet in regards of blending. I would say we're not there yet, but I will explain what I feel it's been very helpful in regards of how I categorize blending. There, there's a way of doing it that is focused on where you blend. Uh, we blend on the palette first, and then we blend also when we apply paint. And that's a kind of blending that I know I do it, but I wasn't aware of that happening. So understanding and learning that blending happens in two places made me realize that sometimes I overblend too much on the surface of the painting and I don't blend enough on the palette. So that's another way of reinforcing what I did with the plastic. I need to study the color in a place that allows me to study the color without committing to it too much. Because otherwise, what I'm gonna end up doing is repeating the blending over and over again on the surface. Um, there's nothing wrong with it and there's nothing bad, but I just feel that it's not as effective and efficient. And I know myself, it's going to give me problems. So I'd rather do the most of the blending on the palette and be gentle and careful on how much blending I do on the actual surface. Okay, so I think I'm okay with that. I'm gonna go to the other two surfaces, but just so we know, um, first notes already involve working on the background. So what I'm gonna do, what I'm actually going to do, and obviously this is something that is very personal in regards of how to decide um, the color palette for your painting. As I said before, and this applies to anything that involves practice and learning, I encourage you to consider tradition first, become familiar with it, and then you can break it. Meaning, if you are reinterpreting colors right now and thinking, okay, this is green, but I'm just going to make it my kind of green, and it's fine. It's a personal creative decision. It's totally fine. But just saying that you'll get more out of practicing um, traditional steps like understanding the color of the background, which I'm going to do right now, um, than just reinterpreting color. So I put ecru and it's too dark naturally. So I'm just going to bring some white and see what happens. This is a little bit better. So let me see. I'm just going to put this. And I'm seeing right now that there's a little bit of pink on that section. So I'm gonna bring some light pink. I would have never thought of it, but by testing and contrasting and comparing the color directly on the surface, oh, yes, maybe a tad of blue. I understand that this was just not gray or light gray. Yeah, it's a very sophisticated color. It's a mixture of pink and blue and a little bit of ecru. Yeah, okay. So I'm saying this because um, involved with first notes is the fact that we have to work with edges at the same time. So I created a background color, and now what I'm doing is I'm cutting in because this shape, it's a little bit too regular. Um, Everything that I said so far does apply in my own experience when I paint this. The shapes that I created at the very beginning, they're becoming way too regular. So I'm stifling the sense of organic growth. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just using the background color to cut in and exaggerate or bring about those shapes. So first notes, it is color fields, but at the same time, it's also cutting. So this is already, I'm much happier with this combination. And I'm much happier after I studied the color on the background, because otherwise I would have done light gray. And like yesterday, working on the maskies, I'm bringing that, I'm sorry if I'm pestering you guys, but it was so interesting. And by the way, Jen, we did that in July, I think like end of July or beginning of July, the maskies. Just can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It feels like we should have done it in like April.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's when we were still being told not to wear them, or well, I don't remember.
I don't remember, but it was July. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would think that it would have been earlier. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think we were afraid.
Yeah. 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 I think it was July. And So anyhow, I just realized that um, uh, looking at that painting underdeveloped, and now being December and learning so much about painting, I was able to realize of a lot of things that happened during the painting that I know now, but I didn't know earlier. And one of them was how the color felt very uniform and really washed out, and really pale in certain areas. So I I darkened some of the tones and I colorized some of the areas that they just felt really washed out. So knowing myself, or what I'm doing right now differently, it's the fact that if it was July, I would have done a light gray on the background, period. That's it. But now I understand that the colors are much more sophisticated. So this is an actually very, very complex color on the background, not just light gray. And this color pushes the painting to a different stage. Um, yeah, so very important. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the hand because it's a little bit darker than the top, but I'm still on first notes. A couple of minutes before the first hour, so I'm gonna strategize. I'm not gonna spend too much time on the hand. Maybe I'll just study the color of the hand and then leave it without too many highs and lows, because I don't want to spend too much time on first notes. I want to just at least have as close to an hour as possible to do second notes for the rest of the session. So um, again, just because I know that if I don't do this, I will not understand the color combination. What I'm doing right now is I'm gonna see if I can find a combination of colors, and I'm using burnt sienna and pink. So this is very light, and I would have used this uh, right away, but I understood that certain colors that I use, they need to be a little bit darker, especially on skin tones. This is a good value, but it's too brown. So I'm gonna push up the warmth. It's getting a little better. It's getting a little better. Matching a color or getting closer or within the range of our color, it's about moving the needle on value and on temperature. So I have to find a substitute a little bit lighter, some more pink, a substitute of black and a substitute of um, white, and also a substitute of red and a substitute of blue. And with all the colors that we have, we can do it. That's much better. So I'm just, all right, I'm gonna cheat right here, but I'm gonna bring some quinacridone um, violet. And quinacridone is a color that we incorporated, and especially with skin tones, it's just amazing. Yeah, so let me bring some white. I'm sorry, some of the salmon rose. So I'm here spending time studying this color. It's something that I would have not done back in July, but now I understand that this is very important. So now that I just did this color, I understand that there's a little bit of quinacridone and it's darker than I would have imagined. So what I'm gonna do is just apply a color fill, because I don't want to spend too much time. I want to take advantage of as much time as possible to do second notes. So literally here, I will do a color fill that will block out the entire area. For now, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm using medium, no turpentine, because I want to build opacity, but I literally block it out. And I do it this way because if I start blending right now, it's just going to take too much time. and I know that the rest of the painting is going to drift away from me. So might as well just do this. I chose a sort of like medium note. There we go. And I'll get back to it later, but I'm happy. Notice I mean, it's different, obviously, a little bit different from the photo, but notice the change from the wash to something that's more within the range of the skin tone. And I'll do it really quickly also. It seems very um, fussy, but it's really not. And here I'm gonna use green. I have some sap green from the self-portrait, and I brought some yellow. That's it, sap green and yellow it's going to be. This one was easy to mix, sap green and yellow and some white. Boom, done. Nice. This was an easy formula, the easiest of all of them. And I'll do the same thing. I'm just gonna bring that tone and I'll block it out. So that's gonna be an actual, very traditional way of going about first notes. Color fill applied with no highs and lows. Studying the color, bringing some medium, building opacity, and just setting up that foundation over the staining that will allow me to work um, with values when I go on second notes. So yeah, flat, no highs and lows, no nothing here. Same with the hands. All right, so, and perfect. I just took like 5 minutes to do both. And I'm ready for second notes right now. And I like to close chapters as I move forward, because otherwise, as I said earlier or in other sessions, before I organized the time and I understood where I was and what I should expect, I always felt that painting was a climb up with loading up weight at every step. Meaning, I would just set up course and then it was all the time was going up, which is exhausting. And then as I set a step forward or up, I would just load up something with me, values or color and it just felt like a gradual, really hard way to climb up. And it feels very frustrating because you feel like you never reached a point where you can rest. And the more you paint, it feels that the more struggling, or the more struggle I got. So it was just like too much. I just felt like every time I painted, I just didn't enjoy it. I had to break it down into different steps. I had to take breaks. I had to understand that I didn't have to carry all the weight, but I could just tackle one thing at a time and enjoy it. So that's why breaking things up between sketch and wash and slowly going to flat areas and then building over the flat areas, it kind of like breaks down the steps in a way that makes them manageable. Apply that to anything that we do. Um, so I'm gonna go back to the way I define second notes after the color fields. A second note is when you go back to that area and create a wide spectrum of values and temperatures. So now I can go back to the aubergine, I can go back to the hand, and I can go back to the top of the aubergine, and I can create darker areas and lighter areas. This is when I actually start blending. My advice is blend on the palette first. Do more blending on the palette so you avoid pushing the paint um, on the painting surface. Um, yeah, because for the sake of it. And it's something that until I recognized I was doing it, I didn't think I was doing it. So what happens is that you may just pick up some color from the palette and then you start blending it here without knowing where it is and how far it goes. it just becomes very soupy. And then it's when we start getting all the muddy notes, and then we feel frustrated because we add paint, but nothing gets really defined. And the shapes are becoming more and more regular. So instead of something that feels organic and full of life, it feels like we're inflating that subject, and it becomes almost like like an inflatable version of uh, the reference. So blend a lot on the palette, create the lows and the highs and the darker and the lighter and the warmer and the cooler on the palette first. So once you study it here, then you can be very specific on where you want it. All right, so I'm gonna go on the aubergine. And I have some of the black already here that I used, which is wonderful. And I used the mineral spirits to clean. I know it had some Payne's gray and a lot of burnt sienna, but I need to create a slightly lighter version. And not only it's lighter, but the skin of the hands is bouncing on that surface. So yeah, that's just gonna be interesting to add. Okay, okay, okay. So I'm just gonna bring some of the blue, and here we go. So I'm going for it. This is a little bit lighter. And again, blend it, almost like force yourself, that sounds awful, to blend more on the palette. Um, yeah, blend more on the palette and recognize what kind of blending you're doing on the painting. Because the first thing in order to be aware of what we do is actually recognizing it. So are you blending on the painting, and how much are you blending on the painting? Are you blending a lot on the painting? So I'm just going to bring some gray. And I'm going to work on that belly, because it's really round, and I made it very vertical. So I just want to make sure that that has roundness. Here we go. So I'm concentrated right now. It's second notes, involve blending highs and lows, and it's based on location. So I'm just working on this area right now. It's a little bit of lightness. And the best thing that you can do at this stage is don't judge the look of anything. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of work. So I try to, this is actually very good for facing all the nonsense that we have to face in our daily lives these days. So just focus on process, break things down, take one step at a time. Don't judge what things look like. It's easy to say this, but we're going to have time to do that. But right now, the thing yeah, we're not there. So much that we need to do. So I'm just going to already make changes on edges because this is a little bit rounder. Okay, so a little bit rounder. And there's a little bit of pink notes within this area on the left. This is almost, I thought it was going to be as similar to the mushroom. The mushroom was so forgiving. Uh, the week before we did the crows, and it was surprising because it was extremely unforgiving. One slight change on inclination or roundness on the silhouette of the crow, and we turned the crow either into a chicken or a pigeon. It was so fascinating. And I feel like with this, I mean, obviously, it's not the same level of complexity, but I just feel like it's not as easy as the mushroom in that sense. All right, so I think now I'm gonna bring the color that I did on the background, which I have right here. And that's another reason why it's good to separate your color samples. Because once you need to bring back a color that you used, you can always find that color history and then start from there. So I knew that this had white and it had ecru and it had pink and blue. So again, just trying to build that first on the palette. Okay, good. So it's not a typical gray. And I'm working on those edges because I feel like second notes not only about it's not only about this goes lower a little bit. So be open to make changes. This arm, the angle is a tad lower, so just need to shave it from the top. It's not only about highs and lows, but also and how you end that area and what kind of transition it has with the background. Is it a hard transition that you just kind of like abruptly move from one note to completely different in a hard way? Or is there fuzziness on that edge? Is there something unfocused or not exactly super sharp? So in my case, there's a lot of sharpness here, but on the hand, there's a little bit of softness. All right, so I'm gonna bring some judgment on the process just because I want to articulate how important it is to focus on process. By just doing a few variations of notes on the belly, changing, adding some highlights on the side, making this a little bit rounder, trimming, I'm already pushing the look of the painting forward. So yeah, just wanted to say that. So much of the process has to do with restrain also. I'm just going to try to pull you back a little bit because when we have the freedom of mixing and using color and paint, we go a little bit nuts. We feel like we can use color the way we want, and then yeah. So restrain, slow down, makes a lot study, um, observe. This is a slow process, so yeah, don't go nuts. It's normal. It's normal. We have color, and it's messy, and we just go. It's fun, and then we start adding. We do a lot of things by addition, which is good, but yeah, let's think a little bit before. Does it need it? What is it made of? Where does it go? So I'm just gonna do darks right here. A little bit lower. Okay, good. And and so I have 45 minutes, and I think this is what I'm gonna do because it's also very important to plan and strategize. Um, I find that if I do it this way, if I strategize, then I can accomplish much more than if I just don't look at time and then concentrate on what I'm doing. I could spend 45 minutes working not only on one arm, but on the tip of the arm. I could just be here like for 45 minutes. So naturally, this is not gonna work because otherwise, if I spend 45 minutes here and then I stop, I need to be realistic. I know it's much harder to get back to a painting than starting one. So I want to get the most out of my time when I'm actually working. So it becomes a little bit easier to get back to it, knowing how difficult and hard it is to do another pass. So I'm gonna plan for the next 45 minutes, 15 on the aubergine, 15 on the hand, 15 on the top, and then I'm gonna call it a day. But I will remind myself to leave the area alone after 15 minutes and then move somewhere else. Because if I don't, um, I'm gonna leave these very, very unfinished, and then I will find every excuse not to work on it. Sometimes when I procrastinate, I just learn to, rather than just find time to do something, I try to analyze why is it that I don't want to do it, or that I'm not allocating time. And on a painting, it may be that the painting is very underdeveloped. And instead of like accepting that and say, you know what, this looks like shit, and I am not getting to it because it's just, I'm not, it's beyond salvageable. Sorry, I used that word. I say, okay, let me just do as much as possible right now. So then when I get back to it, I know that I can only make it better. Um, so 15 minutes, let's just kind of like be now more specific. I'm just gonna do the third arm, 15 minutes. Structure is not bad. We think about time management, structure in very corporate ways. And yeah, it's not bad. It's work. Ultimately, this is work, and it's slow work. So we can achieve so much more if we plan for it. Okay, so I'm just doing pixelations of dark right now. And I need to understand this arm. This arm is, okay, so a little bit of gray mixed to the combination of the black, the Payne's gray, and the burnt sienna. And I think this is gonna be, yeah, that's good. So I'm just gonna bring, I'm gonna paint this arm. So interesting. This shape is, it's a shiny shape. It's foreshortened, and it feels really challenging. So I'm just gonna, I went darker first, and then I'm just gonna do a little bit lighter. I'm gonna go darker to lighter. Maybe what I'll do is the 15 minutes, I'm gonna do 5 minutes each arm. How about like even being more strategic? It doesn't have to necessarily be that way, but yeah, whatever helps. So I'm just gonna bring highlights right now. And this highlights with the mixture that I'm doing, they're way too cold. So I need to go back to the background color because that's a little, they're a little warmer. Here we go. Jen, did you know about this baby Jesus theft thing?
No.
Yeah, it was kind of like weird, but so
Yeah.
strange.
It's
Yeah.
crazy that there's an entire Wikipedia about it.
On the Wikipedia, there's a section that explains that Marilyn Manson, the singer, wait, yes, right? No.
Marilyn Manson, or there's Charles Manson.
I think it's Marilyn Manson, the singer. He used to do that when he was a teenager.
Steal baby Jesuses.
Yeah, and then
That
he
sounds
would,
right.
right?
Yeah. I said that sounds right.
But then he would do something with them. He would, I forgot, if you want to go to, it's at the bottom of the Wikipedia, but he would do something with the baby Jesus and just deliver it somewhere with a label or something. Um, yeah, really strange.
Okay, let me see. It's at the bottom, you said?
Yeah, it's towards the bottom, and then I was like, yeah. And his biography, he explains that that was a thing that he did.
Oh my lord. Okay. This is intense. Um, okay, in his autobiography, he admitted to playing a prank in which he and a few friends stole figurines of Jesus and then replaced them with hams. And then he sent a communi- communique, I guess.
Yeah.
And then he sent a communique to a newspaper posing as a black radical group, saying that it was a protest against the plasticization of the black man's wisdom with so called white Christmas.
Wow.
Wowza.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I
Oh man.
wonder how old he was.
I know that's like it's not where my mind was when I was a teenager. Let me
I
just-
know, right? Different level.
I know. Jeez. Um, and yeah, I thought what I went over it, but then yeah, obviously I forgot. But that was yeah. Anyhow, yeah. Like I know in Spain, this the nativities and stuff in the main square of the towns and the cities. There was always one, but there was never like theft of the baby Jesus. It was like, yeah, you would just go and see it, and yeah, there were no guards or anything, and but I yeah, yes,
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I never would think. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, no, no. Thanks, Charlotte, for bringing light to this issue. Um, So just continuing, I'm having a lot of fun with highs and lows. Remember, second nodes is related to widen the spectrum of color and values. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily blending, even though the edges are softer on the transition. But if you want to blend, you can just grab an old brush. This is possibly a little bit too thick. Yeah, it's a little bit too thick. And wipe it off. And since it's wet, so what you do is you slowly use it almost like as a blush or blushing tool, like a bronzer brush, right? Yeah. So to kind of like diffuse the edges without creating strokes. Um, yeah, so I think this does it. Yeah, yeah, this totally does it. Creates like a little bit of blending because between highs and lows. Let me just go back to the 5 minutes, and if I spend like 10, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna go to this area, this arm, and bring the highlights. So far, I'm okay with my strategy. Don't think of results. I didn't bring purple, so I'm just working with a substitute of red and substitute of blue, Payne's Gray and burnt sienna. And that gives me a very nice subtle purplish note. So that's what I'm doing right now, and bringing those highlights on the shiny skin. Changing a little bit the shape of um, the aubergine because I see it right now. Whoopsie. It's a huge move, but that's okay. Um, and there's a lot of dark right here. So it's not only highlights, but I recognize some of the darker elements on the painting. So I also naturally take the opportunity to build that a little bit more. And so there's this kind of like almost armpit effect. So I'm going to bring that. It's fun to spend a little bit of time observing and discovering. That's what I really enjoy. Discovering new things that I can add. Take breaks, step back. I'm sitting down and it's hard for me to step back. I don't find sitting down for me the ideal position to paint because I like to move a lot. Um, and I like to step back and take breaks. And sitting down makes me feel too contrived. I don't know if that's the word, but contained. But yeah, I have so much cables and wires and stuff. And okay, so I'm slowly trying to blend on the palette, trying to blend on the palette a lot, trying not to um, push paint around on the. I finally got it after all these like years when people like mean professors or teachers, they say you keep pushing paint around. I said, well, I always thought, what else am I supposed to do if not push paint around? I never understood exactly what they meant with the pushing paint around, or that isn't painting that pushing paint around. So I had to figure this out on my own. I think I got it now because it's about the blending. For me, it's about the blending, the push the paint around, meaning try to do as much blending as possible before you actually paint. Um, yes, that's what it means. That's what I think they meant. Um, yeah, it's frustrating when someone um, tells you something that they know it's true, but they're not able to articulate the reason why, and you're left with something that you almost fight against. Like yesterday, I was when I posted the portrait, the Maskies, and the reason why I did it, it's because there's still some people out there that are spewing some nonsense about it, and the numbers are so horrible. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to just bring back some of those portraits and just say, um, and then I tried to. I started the description so many times because it's so easy to accuse, and then you think everyone that knows us knows that we are not this kind of people. um, and I found a few articles about how we um, react when we feel like we are limited in our own behavior, and I found it very interesting because it made me learn about myself and try not to be as judgmental. I still think that those people are jerks and that they deserve to um, be imposed of more limits. But the articles were talking about becoming reactive. I forgot the expression, and how it's a natural behavior when we feel an external source limits what we understand is freedom of behaving. Sometimes we react by not only pushing against it, but finding all kinds of excuses and reasonings to deny it. And the more people push from the outside, the stronger and more stubborn we become. And one of the examples was, how teenagers behave when you tell them to do something, or you explain that there's a reason why they should do something. So they become more reactive. And I'm saying this because I feel like sometimes when we are told, well, use this, or don't go too fast, or you need to blend here, or use the palette, or unless someone explains the reasons why and gives us space to uh, uh, investigate or explore, we will push back. We will push back. And I'm speaking for myself, because when the professors would say, "Stop pushing the pain around," I reacted. I thought, what the hell are you talking about? Or when they would say, "Don't use whatever," I would just kind of like do the opposite. Anyhow, so it was an interesting. I'm just saying, because because sometimes we react. Oh, interestingly enough, the article was talking about how people who are suffering from addictions tend to have this reactive personality, not personality, but um, experience when they're told something is bad and they shouldn't do it, and how becoming more motivational and sometimes using reverse psychology can change that reactivity. In fact, the experts were saying that the reactivity of those people can be, number one, can be measured and can be increased or decreased based on how you react with them. The more pressure you put, the more reactive they become, and the more motivational you are, the less reactive. So anyhow, it was just very interesting to apply this to my own experience. Okay, so, and I just wasted 5 minutes with this nonsense, and I could have done another arm. So I'm gonna go to the hand right now, and I'm just gonna do 15 minutes, or actually 10 minutes, to work on the hand. Highs and lows. I wanted to do more stuff on the aubergine. So let me just do the darker area. And yeah, but it was interesting. Sorry, I'm just gonna go back to that nonsense. It was interesting because I was trying to find an explanation why, even though there's so much infection and death and zero beds, hospital beds, how is it possible that still some people are pushing back? It's I was so baffled. I tried to find an explanation. So it doesn't really matter how bad it gets. So there's this reactivity that some people experience, that it really doesn't matter. In fact, I read of cases where people, before they actually died from COVID, they said they still believed it was a hoax. And I was thinking, what? Which to me seems like the ultimate denial. The ultimate denial. The word denial shows up a lot in this explanation of how we react when we perceive that limits are imposed on us. It's just very interesting. And also another less effective way to deal with it is to actually put limits on the freedom of behavior of the person who is reacting. And in that sense, denying them access to a store, kicking them out of a plane, is the example of actually denying them um, more freedom. So I think there's no choice. At some point, you cannot be motivational. You just have to say, you know what, you can't. um, and finally, and I'm just going to continue the webinar, uh, reverse psychology to provoke a certain reaction is used by salespeople to push a sale of something. Um, so, and the typical example that they put was a car sales person, just saying to a customer that this was out of range of their budget, or this was um, something that it was not part of like they were offering, or it was just like one of a kind, but they only had one and it was on hold. So all those tricks are reverse psychology to trigger a reaction that ends up on a sale. All right, so I'm just gonna go back to painting and tell you that I'm doing highs and lows on the actual skin tone that I had. And yeah, I'm just gonna bring lighter notes and try to just pixelate it in a way, just to kind of like try to pixelate it. I'm forgetting the a lizard. Oh, it's not a quinacridone, you guys. It's a lizard crimson. Okay, so if you're using a quinacridone, you can blame it on me. Alizarin crimson for the darker, warmer areas of the finger. And I feel like with the fingers, I'm just gonna have to spend a little bit of extra time later. So I'm gonna make sure that the last 15 minutes are gonna be dedicated to the cap. Yeah, there you go. A little bit darker. So yeah, to recap, I'm doing second notes, and I'm on the second section of my strategy of doing one part of the painting at a time. I said 15 minutes. And what I'm doing with each section is to bring highs and lows of the same color that I put in the first notes. So I widen the spectrum of temperature and value. And that means that I'm going to create darker versions of that color and lighter versions of that color and apply them where I see them. It means that I will slightly blend a little bit, but without putting too much paint on my brush. It means that the temperature of the color also changes if I see warmth or coolness. So I will add it. So I see some purple, and I should put some blue. So yeah, it means all those things. I'm barely using any medium, just a little bit. I'm not using turpentine. I'm trying to do the blending on the palette as much as possible. And I also need to bring, which I think it would be a good idea, to bring the background color. Because as I said, second notes, it's not only about highs and lows on that area, but also how you resolve the transition between surfaces and colors. Um, so first, I'm just gonna clean up that edge. It's very important. Yeah, I'm just gonna bring up this. And this has a lot of yellow, so I think I'm gonna have to change the color of. Actually, I'm just gonna wipe this off because it has a lot of warmth from the pink. I didn't clean up my brush enough. And here, I'm just gonna do something that I feel I don't wanna do because I'm really engaged with the painting, but I really need to study this color because it's a different color on the background. And I'm just pushing paint. It's much darker, and I'm just making this color here that has nothing to do. Okay, so this is a little bit better. I brought some gray. Just getting back to, okay, perfect. no time. And now I know that this was a little bit darker and it also had a little bit more yellow. Oh yeah, absolutely. So it was getting too close um, to the hand. The pink of the hand was getting out of hand. All right, so perhaps I should use a slightly bigger brush. Yeah, and I'm gonna do it on the other side as well. I think I'm just gonna have time to do the background here, and then I'll just move to the cap. So naturally, this will be a work in progress by the end of this. But that's okay. Just trying to bring that transition between the hand and the background. And then I'll move to, and that's a good, it's good to put a time or time yourself when you work on one area because it could go on. And the problem is that we need to consider the rest of the painting. So we can have something very beautiful and perfect in one section, but it's pointless because it's not integrated with the rest of the painting. So we have to consider all angles and all areas. So that's why timing myself in one section. Okay, here we go. Will allow me to just go to other areas that need to be also developed and they will benefit. Okay, so that's good. And I have a few minutes. I have 1 minute. So, and what can I do with this 1 minute? I'm just gonna bring some lighter notes with yellow ochre on the finger right here. Yeah, more a tad of yellow ochre. And try to distinguish or differentiate the fingers that are folded. So there's a different, and then also there's a lighter edge right here. Yeah, I'm not gonna even blend. Oops. But perhaps there's so much work that needs to be done on this section, but if you want to, again, use an old brush and I'm just gonna soften this edge. This brush doesn't have any liquid or any medium, and it's an old brush, and what it does, it just softly blends the edges. Yeah, I like to use it, but I don't like to overuse this. It's a good technique to blend, but I don't want everything to be perfectly soft. Okay, so this could be an initial um, stage of second notes, and I definitely need to go back at it and then just bring up some more values and work on those fingers. I may have to push some fingers out because they feel very narrow. But my next 15 minutes will be dedicated to the cap, to the top. And I feel like that's going to allow me to have a final stage of these two sessions that it's somewhat acceptable and in a way easier to get back to. So that's the difference between having something perfectly realistic and everything else underdeveloped than having something that has more work spread out. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do, I have a lot of darks. I'm just gonna bring some highlights. Actually, I think this is gonna be a reverse. Instead of like darker to lighter, And I need to work on irregularities. Here it's all way too regular. And I also need to work on the transition between this shape and the background because I have a lot of gaps. I still have the charcoal. And these two elements right now, they're a little bit more integrated with each other and with the background. That's what's important, not this. So I can recognize right now what needs to be taken care of. And so I'm just gonna try to do it. And perhaps because this is so helpful to study the color, this was the easiest combination, but I just want to find out, yeah, and it's more yellow. If the pale green is what I thought it was going to be. Actually a little bit more sub green and more white, yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring those highlights. And I found some resistance. Why resistance? Because the green underneath it's a little bit darker. So again, with oil, it's much more complex and complicated to lighten an area that has a darker undertone, but that's okay. So I'm just adding a tiny bit more black. And I'll do one pass first to just bring some of the lighter notes. I think that's okay. Much lighter right here. Okay, so I think that's good. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to work on the background. So again, some of the white and gray and pink. Um, and I'll just use the background, perfect, to cut in because it was getting too regular, too round, and it wasn't showing this organic growth. It was very static or artificial looking. Okay, good. So just cutting in, removing the gap or closing the gap rather um, of the charcoal and creating those irregularities. Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like working. I'm going to continue. I'm using the medium brush and I am continuing to clean up or work on the transition between the actual form and the background. Yeah, okay, that's good. Um, trying to stick to the formulas of color that I got from studying um, the background. Forcing that irregularity so it doesn't feel too artificial. And I think now I need to go back. So I'm just gonna bring some medium to expand the background color, blend it with wash, because right now it just feels like it has more of a halo look and it has some purples and pinks. And since I'm approaching my own like timing or the end of the timing, I just want to leave something that feels strong enough so I can just continue. What I'm doing right now with more medium and a slightly bigger brush, I'm just blending the tones that I created around the positive space so they feel a little bit more integrated with the wash. I'm not even gonna paint the rest because that's gonna take a long time. Um, but I know I have to add paint there. So right now I'm just unifying those areas. Okay, I think that's, yeah, I think that's working. I think that's working. So kind of like blending. And I also, yeah, if you notice, I'm just bringing some of this pigment. I really am now pushing paint, literally. And the reason is because I wanted to harmonize the different temperatures that I had on the background. So the idea is to create space between the foreground and whatever's in the background. Um, so yeah, pushing, blending, creating continuity. So that's why I'm bringing the brush all around it. So the color that's on the left, it's similar to the color that's on the right and the color that's below. So that unifying element will push this surface back. And oh my gosh, we have time. So I'm gonna still work on this area because I want to do two things. I want to close the gap and make this a little bit thicker. And I want to bring some darker green. So it creates more of a cylindric effect. It creates the idea of like a dome. So I'm still not done with the second notes on the top because I still have like some minutes. Um, so yeah, some light green. Sorry. And then I'm just gonna expand this edge outward. Yeah, expand it outward. This is very light, so I think I'm just gonna bring much more white on top. Yeah. I work in a pixelating way for a couple of reasons. So this is shiny and smooth, and this is rugged. So naturally, my brushstroke will not be the same over this surface than it is over the surface that I'm working on. So it's more sort of like pointillistic in this area. And I'm gonna create a darker green version, a darker green. Let me see, sap green, which is great for botanical elements. And I'm just gonna add it. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Perfect. On the right side of the stem or that area. I don't have to be exacting. Oh yeah, I think that's working. Oh, okay. Too much action on the paper. And this needs to also have a little bit of darkness. I'm working on those things that are stretch. Um, Jen, did you get a chance to look at the images of the, oh, you did, yeah, of that photographer with the dolls? Wasn't that so unsettling?
Yeah, so unsettling. It's interesting, like I remember when my great grandmother was in a nursing home, and there were a lot of older women in there that had baby dolls. And I don't know, like I remember seeing that as a child, you know, seeing these old women hold their baby dolls and just thinking to myself, like, oh, you know, they're like when I was a kid, thinking
Right.
like, oh, they're obviously like at this point mentally gone, and you know they're holding baby dolls, and like
Right.
how, you know, absurd that was. But you know, as I'm getting older, I totally understand that, like, you know, feeling of like holding something and something being dear to you, and and feeling comforted by something like that. On top of that, like being a mom, that sense of, the baby stage goes so fast. And, you know, I I have I just want to hold babies. Like that's all I want to do. I actually
No,
like applied to volunteer at the Children's Hospital before
right.
COVID to do such thing, and obviously we know how that went. Um,
Did
but
you get it? You said you didn't get it.
well, I stopped the
Oh,
process. It's like a 9 month process that you have to go through, and I got through every
oh,
stage. Um, and then the last stage that I did was the in-person interview, which then you just have to get your medical records together.
right.
But that was in like
Oh,
February.
before with
And
COVID. Yeah,
so yeah, and so I just didn't feel comfortable.
right,
But
right.
anyway, it was so haunting seeing those images, and
Yeah,
there's still that mix of like where is this person mentally to where this is the action, but that they take. But I don't know, like I feel a lot of so much empathy towards that as well. Boy,
yeah,
they were hard to look at.
right. Yeah. At first, I was like, oh, whoa. Um, but same thing. Yeah. I mean, empathy. That's a great word because I mean, totally understand the situation. But I was like, I had to put those images and connect them with the rest because otherwise it would have been just kind of like funny. But we needed that counterbalance punch, I would say. And
Right.
at first, I didn't know what to think when I saw that. Yeah, I was like, but I knew it was her. The first images, like it was self-portrait. So, but then she brought other images and people that collect the dolls and stuff like that. It was like, wow,
Right.
there's so much. Um, and I thought of you, yeah, because of the volunteering. Yeah, I remember um, that you mentioned it. And how interesting, that's this idea of like holding,
Mm-hmm. And
the
how
baby.
important it is to be held as well, especially at the infant stage.
Right, right.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Um, awesome. Um, so I'm working on the cap and just bringing highs and lows. I just blended a little bit. I feel like this is very regular somehow, and I also feel like there is this shadow underneath the cap. So I'm not happy with the regularity here. So I think what I'm gonna do, first thing I'm gonna do, it's possibly um, on the background. I'm just gonna crop this a little bit more on the background. Yeah, and then cut this here. So it just feels a little bit less regular. Again, I think it's important with fruits and vegetables. Whoops, that's too white. Wow. Um, to just even exaggerate sometimes because by the nature of our brush strokes, the fact that we are um, making strokes, naturally the edges or the shapes rather will be a little bit softer and more regular. So we have to almost fight against that look when we start developing the painting a little bit further and exaggerate. Yeah, exaggerate um, the irregularities. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring some darkness underneath, and we have like yeah, I'm just gonna push maybe like 3 more minutes, and at 105 we will take a 10-minute break to stretch, drink. I have like some tea here that I haven't even touched. So like so absorbing painting, I'm saying. And then after 10 minutes, if, in the meantime, if you want to upload, so we can just share, exchange, talk about if you want to, and then I'll provide some notes that hopefully will open up or allow you to continue working if you can. Um, Let me just take the. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. There's a little bit of darkness going that way, so I need to shave this. And now, so this is what I would do. I'm going to stop right here and take the next 2 minutes to just tell you what we're going to do exactly. But I consider this to be a good second note closure for right now. And what I would do, or what I will do, is go back to the same process. Um, the aubergine, the hand, and the stem, and add more work. So it will be a repetition of what I've done, but with the medium and small brush, blending again, adding more highs and lows, checking the drawing and the edges, um, and so forth. So it would be a repetition of the same thing, but with more detail. And I would possibly also work on the background. There's something nice about the highs and lows, and that diagonal distribution of the light that I can see on the photograph. But so take a picture of the process, upload it on the folder, so we can share and exchange and see if how we can just move it forward. And I can wait to yeah, can wait to see that. I'll take a picture and I'll upload this because it looks different when you actually see the photo, and you'll notice. And also, it's very good to see the photo on the screen of the phone because it automatically allows us to recognize things that we want to do with it. Sometimes it's good to get feedback from those like small photos. So I'm gonna pause this. 1:15, we'll reconvene and then we'll continue the conversation. All right. So we'll see you in 1 second. I'll pause the recording. And hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you had enough time. 10 minutes fly. It's just amazing. So I hope you had enough time to stretch. I'm gonna go ahead and share the folder right away. The paintings look amazing. This is so exciting. I was just going back to these images, and I love the coconut. I almost chose the coconut. I think it's just so hilarious. But anyhow, so I love the paintings. I think they're incredible. And thanks for this, Jen. It looks super cool. I just it's a nice. What is she gonna do? Because that's gonna rot.
I think well, she was looking for preservation ideas, and
Oh,
I saw one person say that they shellacked something. They shellacked like Hostess cupcakes or something, which makes sense because that's already preserved, and made
right,
with so many preservatives.
right.
But I don't know. I don't know about the cafe.
It's interesting. Wow, so cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So yeah, Claire, I love that you did your own still life. So that's excellent. And is this the board that you painted on, Claire? No. Okay, you're. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, yes, yes. Uh okay, okay, okay. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I did it. So you can now unmute yourself. But
Oh,
yeah.
so hi, Julio.
Hi.
The board is just so I had something to lean them against,
Okay.
and and I took off part of the one, but it looked like a dog in a tree. So I just painted them. They're ginger, raw ginger. I
Right,
just painted
right.
them as is. I also want to add that my cousin at one point, he was preserving all sorts of things in resin, and he preserved pickles and pickle jars in resin, and they lasted about 20 years and then they finally rotted.
Oh my
So you
gosh.
can preserve that carrot in resin, but it will eventually rot.
Wow, interesting. It gives me some ideas because I love to work with that kind of stuff, preserving and
Yeah, yeah, resin.
decorating. Yeah. Um, how big is this? It's like a small format, right?
It's very small. It's
Oh,
like 5 by
wonderful.
7.
Perfect. I love that format. I think it's wonderful. I like the composition. Um, I like the painting of the ginger root. It's excellent. In regards of composition, um, yeah, it's good. It's a little bit getting closer on the top, but that's fine. But yeah, that would be the only thing because if they frame it, it may, if someone frames it, I think if they frame it, I'm assuming this will be a gift perhaps, and if it's a gift, it may get really, really close.
I
Um,
could make the tree shorter, but I
mm,
thought of moving it over and everything. I was like, I just want to get started.
right. No, good. Yeah, I think that's excellent. I love actually what you did with the dog. I think that's brilliant to put a little bit of dot there. I think it's really good because it just becomes a little bit more understanding of the ginger root and that becoming a dog. So I think that's really good. Um, a couple of things. I think the grass. I would maybe just shred it a little bit more because it feels really abrupt going from the grass to the background. So perhaps just bringing some transparency in between so it doesn't become so heavy on that area that
Like
interacts
more
with.
pink. I totally did that at the last minute, tried to
Okay,
blend it in.
right,
I kept trying to blend it and it kept getting taller and taller.
right.
So
Yeah,
it's a
no,
hill. Now it's a hill.
I think it's, yeah, that will be the only thing. And then in regards of the clouds, I love this cloud. It's so wonderful. This one feels interrupted almost. There's a sense of like having resistance outside. So I would just bring it and crop it behind the ginger. So it's just gonna
Sure.
create the idea of space. I think that could help you. I feel like in the same sense, there's almost like a layer coating parts of the ginger root somehow. So I it makes it look like a little bit almost like collaged. And again, it could be good depending on um, what you intend on the painting, but I would blend some of it. It's better that you keep it underground or underneath or on one side than being so continuous around. So perhaps just pull it upward here. I would pull it upward. You can keep it underneath so it just grounds the dog. What do you think?
Oh, the reason it looks like that is because I use the Payne's Gray to outline the shape, and then
Mhm.
I blended it, literally blended on the palette with the green, and it just needs to be fixed. And I like the idea of not doing it on every side, but it was to emphasize the shape.
Right. Great. Yeah, I
But
think yeah.
yeah,
And in regards of the color, I just feel it depends on the light, obviously, but I feel like there's a wonderful golden warmth here
mhm,
that I feel like here it's not as
mhm.
present. So I don't know if it's almost like a salmon tone, a nude tone of sorts. And I feel like this feels a little bit more towards the brown.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to work on it, I would just bring some of that very pale orange almost.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, it probably will work on it again. I want to mention I added at the end of the photos the I only put it in because it goes with the assignment. I did another one of the chairs, the stand-in still lifes as a commission.
Right.
And after I painted it, I noticed there was a smiley face in the objects on the chair with the
Wow.
two citrus and the egg timer and the banana as a smile. So it kind of goes with our assignment.
Mhm. Yeah.
And also bragging. I'm bragging. I think it's
No,
good.
that's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm excited yeah, I remember the painting and I see that happening. Perfect. Yeah, you could have done another one and it could have been great, but thanks for painting this one.
Yeah, Julio, I'm gonna try and come to studio time the next 2 weeks, but I won't be able to do the holiday days.
But yeah, no, we're not going to do the next 2 Fridays. It's not going to happen. We're just going to move the webinar. I think we have to discuss next week, but the following week is going to be on a Thursday.
Oh, the studio time?
The studio time will be on Wednesdays both weeks, next week and following week. But the painting webinar will move it back. So instead of Friday, it's just going to be, I think, on a Thursday on the 31st, I believe. Yeah, and then we have to discuss this the next week. I don't know when we're gonna put it, but yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Julio. This was a really fun assignment, and I might go back and try and do some of the other images, but
Cool.
this one I had at home.
Great painting, Claire. It's really fun. Looks
my
like
God.
2 kids playing in the lawn to me.
It's a dog and a.
And yeah, I was thinking 2 kids. Really great.
Is that Julie?
Yeah, sorry. I'm here. Start video there.
Julio, can you include the link for these photos you were talking about of the women with the dolls? You and Jen had this extended conversation, and I had no idea what you were talking about.
Oh, it's in the web. Yes. So
it's in the on the link.
Oh, it's not in the folder. You're right. It's not
Yeah,
in the
it's like,
folder.
oh, they're talking about, they're having a private conversation here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
Sounds
just.
interesting.
I added one. I added one of the images in the email that I sent last night.
Okay.
One of them, but let me just add them really quickly. I'll just add those two in just a second there. And thanks for bringing that up. So 1 second, let me see if I can, here. 1 sec, because they're really quite something. Here, let me see. I just added them and then it's going to take a little bit. One is of her and one is a different series and there's a guy. Here, they're added.
Oh, okay. Oh, I saw the photo, but I didn't realize it was a doll. Oh.
Yeah.
And there's my painting. Do you see the smiling?
Right. Yeah. I see the nose and the egg timer. Yeah, I think that's cute. Beautiful frame.
Yeah, the frame is perfect and it's helping me to ship it so it won't get wrecked. Anyway, thank you, Julio.
Thanks, Claire. And Julie, since you're here, how about this amazing painting? Wow.
Well, I love the carrots because they're so loving, you know, it's just like, oh.
So sweet, right? The image.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that you removed the background and you brought focus on the actual carrots. I think that was a brilliant idea. I think it works.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with that background. So I thought, oh, I'll just pop it. Yeah, make it go dark. And I wanted to sort of keep it light on the baby carrot side because it just seemed like that's the preciousness and the parent is stronger and heavier and more solid.
Yeah. And the way I see it, it just gives a really strong sense of light direction. So you kept the light going from left to right, and naturally there's more darkness. In fact, I would even say if you wanted to, you could even make this darkness expanded because it feels it conforms too much with the curvature. So I would even expand it a little bit more so it looks even, it's gonna make it pop from from the surface basically.
Great.
Yeah, I love that you resolve this so brilliantly. Fantastic way of resolving it because you had this the growth
Yeah.
cropped, and instead of cropping it, you kind of like brought it in. Beautiful, really well done. Great use of green, the sap green, great variations of values on that. So I like this idea of um, having a different growth. You know, you have the carrot, and then this feels really nice.
Great.
And also in that sense, yeah, I think I love the orange. I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Do you think the white is too bright? I mean, because really in the carrot, it's not quite so bright. And actually on the painting, it doesn't pop out as much as it does from the iPhone picture.
Um, oh, I see. It works. I mean, it
Okay.
works. On the painting, it works really well. And here it's like less shiny, obviously. So it just depends what you want to do. I think it works. I wouldn't touch it. If you want to, yeah, I wouldn't touch it. I think it works.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, actually. It just seemed to pop out really easily for me. And I think I'm going to give it as a gift to one of my kids for Christmas, because they were wanting something. And I thought, oh, this would be good.
No, that's
super
perfect,
cute.
Julie.
Yeah.
This reminds me, I know it's, I'm going to bring a story, but I'll be quick. So there's a place, a juice bar nearby, and I like to go there. And then they have this painting of two carrots and they're kissing.
Oh, really?
And they have a farm and stuff. And I love that painting. You know, when you go to a place and you see these strange things and then you fall in love. I love that painting of the carrot.
Great.
So I'm saying this because whoever you're going to give it to, they're going to absolutely not only love it, but keep it forever, because it's really, really charming.
Well, I thought it was a great exercise. And you've inspired me to go back and do a new Maskey, because I hated my Maskey painting way back when. I looked at it, I think it was from March. I think maybe you had it in your, you said it was July, and I went back and I was like, no, I think that's March.
Okay, I'm going to check.
Or early April. But anyway, your mask painting is just great, phenomenal. Really, it's inspiring. So
you,
do that.
You'd be surprised. I would encourage you to do some touch-ups on your painting. You'd be surprised how much you can push it forward. And I think it's really worth it. Yeah. I mean, it just depends. If you want to start from scratch.
Yeah, I just hate it so much. I'm like, okay.
So
but it's so iconic for the whole pandemic we've been in. You know, I've been sad all along. I love Lois's painting of her in the mask, and you know, and yours, it's like, oh, stunning.
Oh, so, it's worth going back. So please do.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Great job. Wonderful. And Dina, thanks so much. I just loved also that you did something from live. I really appreciate it, because we put the images, but I hope that someone would do something very unique. And of course you did. So thanks for nesting this. Is it a potato or a sweet potato? It sounds like
it's a potato. And I thought, that's why I was late in registering, because I was at the market looking, and this, I probably was like, their whole goal is to not have ugly fruit, right? In the supermarkets. The farmers markets, you're better off finding naturally things that like the pictures depicted in the album, because they're organically grown and they don't care if they're ugly. In fact, it doesn't matter how they taste. But when you go to like an Albertsons or a brand name, they purposely kind of weed out those types of. So I was lucky. I looked at squashes, I looked at fruits, and then I came across this russet potato, and it just was like staring at me. And to me, it looks like a little puppy, just their head, and when they're really little, their bodies are really fat and round. And then I thought my finished product hopefully will resemble kind of a little puppy. But yeah, so that's what I did.
I love it, and thanks for sharing that. And yeah, good idea. And ooh, I can see it. Yeah, I mean, I love how you work with acrylic. It's just amazing. So did you you didn't upload, those are the only two, right? Did you upload?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's very good. And notice, because the way you nested it, which I think is beautiful, So there's a really strong sense of roundness on the potato. So notice how it just fades. And so in regards of values, there's a really interesting blending or transition from this area, which is like lighter, and then especially when it just goes out down this other side. So, and I love the color of the napkin or the kitchen cloth. I think that's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful color. So, and it bounces a little bit on the potato as well. So that will be interesting to bring in.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, great. And great composition. I like how you centered it. Is that square?
No, it's a rectangle. That's just kind of
Rectangle.
cropped on that side. Yeah.
And this is going to give you a great opportunity to practice folds and blending.
It is.
So
yes,
good challenge.
So this was the picture that I submitted for the sample of my reference, but actually how you see it in the next picture, I was painting it from that view of looking at it from there.
A little lower, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I might try again to do make painting exactly like the photo I took, because that's kind of like right on top. So I might do that.
Anything that works. I think like since you have it like so developed from this point of view, just
I'll keep it for right now. Yeah, just kind of it's giving me a challenge to do the folds from that angle and the roundness of the potato, how it goes down from the top.
Right.
So I'm working on that. I know I can. It's got to be able. Some painters are able to do it, so there must be a way. But I don't know if I will. But I'll give it a try.
Of course, yes, and you'll succeed. Of course. I'm curious, Dina. I'm curious. What was your feeling about the assignment?
Well, I thought, because the name Jesus is very important to a lot of people, and I could understand why some people might be sensitive about that.
Right.
But it maybe if it was the title was maybe different, like lively vegetables or something, and I totally understand why, because of the story, the backstory. But I don't think everybody will give the backstory a chance. They just hear that, and then they might react before they really understand where the position was coming from. So that's why I thought, it's good. Everybody's just enjoying and having fun, because to me, Jesus is very important to a lot of people. But nature is very important too. And all the fruits and vegetables are beautiful, no matter if they're perfectly shaped or not. So to me, that's giving honor. It's giving honor to look at whatever God you believe in. Look at what they've blessed us with. So abundance of beauty and in food, in animals, everything. So, but I understand, when you were sharing that some people wrote things on a post that did not agree.
Yeah. No, it was also, that's why I brought it up. But thanks so much I'm glad I asked you, just because I
wouldn't have said anything, but I did feel that, I wonder how people would react. I didn't react that way, but I think your hunch of possibly thinking people would react like that was spot on, because I think some people are sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like any subject, I learn a lot from I learn a lot, whether it's crows or mushrooms or this, in many aspects, and not just the actual scientific.
But it doesn't change how we all love you. So it just
No, I really appreciate it. But yeah, that's why I asked you precisely to you, because I know that you're very sensitive also, and I just wanted to kind of like ask you. So thanks for being so frank And yeah, I'm glad I asked you. So
Yeah, but then in the end, when you post these under that title, nobody's trying to substitute their painting for a baby Jesus. You
right,
gave the backstory of some people were unfortunately very mean and stealing those, and some people substituted it for the missing element of the nativity scene with
right,
a
right,
vegetable,
right,
or fruit, but that wasn't what we were doing.
right,
You were sharing the story,
right,
and in sharing the story, we realized how there are some fruits and vegetables that kind
look,
of resemble
right,
nature. I
right.
mean, humans, human
Humans.
form.
Yeah,
And in doing, and also, um, there's been so many books and articles about mushrooms, fruits, vegetables. They all kind of look like parts of the human body.
right,
I mean,
right,
that's just, yeah.
right,
So I think that's what we're celebrating here.
right. Yeah,
And yeah, it was a fun. I
awesome.
think that it was just the title. I think that people might have
Yeah.
not so sure about, but the assignment was great, and I love everybody's painting. They're
I
great.
know, this was so good.
They're real fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Tina,
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you,
Uh-huh.
thank you, thank you. Oh, that's so nice. Charlotte, that looks amazing. I don't know if you're there, but so happy that you painted this. Thanks for joining. Yay!
Oh, I love you guys so much. Most importantly, I want to paint with you all again. And I remember Julie Grist's place in Ojai. We need we need a retreat. Dang. I want
Exactly.
to see you people so badly.
We miss you.
I miss you.
Man.
Your paintings are so gorgeous. And Julio, when I watch you work, I'm just like, in
Blown
the
away.
first 2 seconds, I'm like, it's already better than the picture. So good. This has been one of the most cathartic things to be able to like figure out a way to get back to this practice. This is just, oh, delish.
Oh, well, listen, I just, this painting is absolutely amazing. Thanks for being the catalyst of this assignment. I just was a little bit lost, and we started receiving like ideas and stuff like that. And the article that you brought in, it just put everything together. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing it in. So
that's my pleasure. You did a great job of also making me realize that what's funny to me, and it really isn't about the Jesus, it was about like the something being gone and something like a cat being there.
I know.
It wasn't meant to be about like saying that people shouldn't feel happy about the
Right. No. It was clear. It was
buttons are like spot on. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, right. Hadn't thought about it. Good on you. I'm very I'm a little what's that word? I'm a little not spontaneous, but something like that. Anyway.
It was good. No, and in fact, I think the message was actually very good because we didn't talk about it, but the commercialization, whatever that is, of the holiday. So the fact that this brought up this idea that bringing cameras and fences and security and GPS to protect undermined what it really means, or this time of the year. So I think it was positive. But of course, when you send out a message, you think you're saying something, and then whoever receives it, they have a different experience. So I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Anyhow, so
it was awesome. It was a great exploration into that. That was fun.
So you said that you actually used the plastic on this. What was your experience with that?
Oh, so challenging. Well, okay, so here's the best part about it. We've painted a long time together, and we get in our habits. And then all of a sudden I was like, how come I'm not doing this? Like, I'm here because I'm supposed to be learning. So get the cellophane out, find something. So I found something. And then I put it on the thing and I'm like, it's so far off. And then I was like, wow, what that's also teaching me is that I don't have the tools. Like, I need to figure out, there's something about this potato that almost looks like it's glowing from the inside out. How am I going to recreate this? Obviously, I have at least 2 or 3 more hours to go. I haven't even the teeth, for starters, did you guys notice there are two sets of teeth? There's the teeth that are at the where the mouth is supposed to be, but then on the upper forehead, there's an exact same thing with 3 more teeth. I can't wait to do it. It's so bananas. But what's weird is using the cellophane made me realize, like, I either don't have the color or I haven't done the work to figure out how am I going to make it glow like that. And that is awesome because now I have a tool. Like, I'll know it when I find it. I just have to go figure it out. And I was so lazy. I was so mad at myself. I was like, I'm being so lazy. Why am I not doing this? I've never tried it, and it's obviously fantastic. There it is. And so, just it's a metaphor for life, which is what painting is, which is what all these practices are. So I don't want to be lazy. I got to cellophane out and I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. Now, I definitely do not have it resolved, but as you can see by my attempt, I have a long way to go.
Well, I just, two things. Number one is that I felt exactly the same way when I used the cellophane or the plastic. I just was like, wow, I see color differently than I make it. So I see color and then I make it differently than I see it. It was so far off, and it was shocking, but also very helpful because I understood that I need to recalibrate, and I need to sort of like really study and get things down before I apply the color. So it was a good tool for me to feel like I need to be more sensitive to color variations than I was.
And I think you bring up a great point in that you can choose to deviate from what it is, but don't kid yourself. If you don't know what you're deviating from, that means you're kind of cheating. Like, the surrealists were always saying, like, we have to draw first, we have to know how to do it right first, then we can be surrealists and take the riff on what we should know. And one of the things you brought up also long ago, which I think is suddenly coming back to me, is I think we were doing landscapes, and you said it takes a really long time for your eye to adjust to what you're looking at, to see it for what it really is. And in this particular case, of course, I saw the background. I'm like, oh, it's gray. It's gray. Okay, well, no, it's so not gray.
Right.
It's purple, it's white, it's gray, it's blue. And then once I started doing that, which I found much easier than the potato itself, I was like, it really looked a lot better.
Yeah, I think the combination, it's amazing. I think the painting, the way you have it, it's already extraordinary. I love that it's more sort of like contained. In that sense, I think it's a little bit of a departure because you have a very specific shape and you have two colors that are in two different places. So I think that is excellent and good. And I like the combination of colors. I would have never thought of like using that kind of like purple for the background. So it shows that you understood that it wasn't just neutral. There was some color in that neutral. And I love that you added that sort of like cast, that color cast. It goes really well with the golden tones of the potato. It's a great combination. And I think aesthetically, it just comes, it's very pleasing. It just comes forward. So good job on that. I would say a couple of things. And I see the teeth right now and it's hilarious. And
I can't. It makes me so happy. I can't. I do love it so much.
I know.
So happy with that.
It's so good. It's so good. So I would say a couple of things. I love the strokes. I think this is brilliant and it's very pictorial and it's very good. So naturally, the photos are totally different than seeing it from real life. But I noticed that any shadows, oh, someone's like scratching. Any shadows or shaded area, I feel like the way you treated them is very neutral. And I think you could just treat it with color. So I know that this is kind of like neutral, but notice that the darker areas are actually very colorful. They're only darker. So I would consider also creating a little bit or adding a little bit of color on the darker spots, for example, on the top and then the bottom. They feel very, very neutral. So bringing some color to those shadows will, I think it will push it forward a little bit.
Good, yeah.
And in that sense, I'm squinting my eyes like a lot, and I realize that there's a lot of light concentrated in the middle, and then as the potato kind of like wraps, because the potato is not flat, it's obviously has a shape, it becomes gradually darker. So it has this kind of like vignette effect. So the glow is concentrated in the middle section, but as it goes towards the sides, there is a fading into a little bit darker. So I feel like what you have right here works in that sense. It makes the potato look like it has volume, even though we're seeing it from the top. But I would consider kind of like bringing a little bit of a vignette around. So you have this vignette around. It's the same color. It's colorful. It's not like it's um, washed out or anything, but it just fades a little bit darker on the edges. It will make the potato much more voluminous, or the illusion of being volume. And then I would also concentrate. I know this is something that you didn't have time or that you plan to do, but concentrate on the actual specific details on, the eye line and then the pupil. I think that is what's really stands out about the potato, that it actually has this visual, this facial features. So yeah.
Great feedback. Great feedback. Yeah, I feel like I need at least 2 more hours, because there's just stuff getting away from me, trying to do this, trying to look at the colors, trying to figure out like all the things you said, and having like mapped the background from the sketch forward. I'm like, just love to watch the yeses and nos as we go along, like what works, what doesn't work, then it's gone, we erase it, we paint over it, it worked, we got to get back there somehow. It's just, it's interesting.
What can I ask you, what made you choose this one in particular? What stood out about this image compared to the other ones? What did you like about this one?
You know what was fun for me about this one? I thought that because it looks relatively simple when you look at it, I thought that will be interesting to try to do with the limited palette. The longer I paint, the less paint I'm using. The longer I paint, the fewer colors I'm using. The longer I paint, the more simple things get. And that for me has been very interesting. So when I saw this, I thought the funny thing about it is the more I do with it, the better it's going to get, because it appears simple, but it's wildly complicated.
Makes sense. And actually, it's a great image. It's going to help you develop other things that, rather than just focus too much on detail, the simplicity of it, it's just going to push the painting again, elevate it, because then shape is simple. You have to deal with value, and the illusion of texture. So I love potatoes. So I think this is such a beautiful image. It's just so good.
And one of my favorite comments from you always is potato shapes. And I'm like drawing it going, I'm actually doing a potato.
Perfect.
Okay. And it's still not that easy, but yeah.
Right.
Great image. It's such a funny image, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. So the paintings are excellent. Can't wait. Yeah. So if you can find some time, work on it, and then upload anytime, and then I'll just continue giving you feedback. Mushrooms are looking great. Great touch-ups. And yeah, I love what you did. And let me just like really quickly, because I know that unfortunately you didn't have like the opportunity, but I'll just be super quick. Because I feel like with what I gave you, it wasn't really specific. I don't. Is it here?
I think I put it there.
Let me see.
I'm like, I love that all these people are hanging in here. I'm like, oh my god. Sorry, I'm dragging you through my mushroom painting now.
I don't think
Here it is.
No. Yeah, I know that you did more work, but I noticed that on the last one that you did, there was almost an interruption between both sides of this area right here. You had like, I feel like darkness on the right. And what I explained on the feedback last week was that I love the gradation and the rhythm on the foliage from the path where the light is, and how it gradually became almost like it becomes almost like a blanket, and it becomes softer and frostier. But as it comes closer to the actual mushrooms, it's choppier and harsher. But it kind of like serves as an um, a surface underneath the mushrooms, where the mushrooms, they look like they're really planted on top. So I think I have the image right here. Yeah. So um, that's what I mentioned. I mentioned when I gave feedback, how I would have worked, or I would work on the continuity of that texture underneath and on both sides of the stalks of the mushroom. So it looks like it's the ground where the mushrooms are planted. I don't know if that makes more sense, because it's harder to kind of like articulate it when I reply back.
It's I'll tell you what my thinking was that how bad do I wish I were in class right now when Julio walks over to my canvas and does 7 strokes and fixes the whole freaking thing. No joke.
Yeah, that is such a great comment. I know that feeling too.
It's true, isn't it? About
yeah.
like I know what you're saying, and I keep looking at the same thing, and I'm like, it's just it's so hard. And it's the stalks and it's the ground. It's a great photo, and I don't think it's a terrible painting, but
No.
it's a
Oh, I love it.
it's a hard nut to crack. This one, it's not easy, and they're very like spaceshipy and weird. So I think you can kind of get away with a lot, but on the other hand, it's like, I like what you're saying. And the examples you used when you introduced us to the project were also very weird. You loved like these floating mushrooms, things without backgrounds and foregrounds and perspective, and things not being layered and being apart. And in particular, the stalks of these mushrooms are so strangely arranged that they look unnatural. So it's really hard to paint them because they almost don't make sense. It's like, how can this one on the left be growing out of that one on the left? You see what I mean? Like, it doesn't look natural. Like, where's the wet rest of the stalk on the left? They look stacked like a spaceship or something. And on the
It's like
right,
it's veiled or something.
yeah, and on the right, the two are also stacked, but the one on the left, the two on the right, the one on the left has a longer stalk, and you do sort of see it, but it's so subtle compared to the one on the right, that it's just one. I forget what they call that with drawing, where you have that like weird, I don't know, things end up in a really weird angle to each other. And so it works in a photo, but when you try to recreate it in a drawing, it just looks wrong. It's actually really strange when you look at how they're arranged. It's like, well, is one growing out of the other one?
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't even think about it, but yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I think I mean,
Julio, I just posted Charlotte's most recent one if you want to
okay,
refresh.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jen.
Of course, darling.
Like, she's like the IT hacker right here.
while I have you guys, I also posted the gallery of forever mothers under the image of the woman on the train holding the baby, and a New Yorker article about the show itself. So you guys can, it's all there for you.
One of your other images from that, Jen, just populated with that lady on her front steps with a baby, with a doll.
Oh
my God.
That whole thing.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Look at this amazingness. Yeah, thanks for uploading. Yeah, this is already so much more developed in regards of like the stalks and the way you arranged it. But this is the perfect example. It's the difference between both sides of the stalks that I was referring to.
Okay.
This already looks so much more developed right here, the texture. So this becomes like really what I meant regarding the blanket or underneath, and the way the mushrooms are planted. This is amazing, Charlotte, amazing. I mean, the colors right up here, they're incredible. But yeah, I was gonna mention that continuity behind the stalks between the left and the right. So it looks like it's underneath, because right now the darker area is almost concentrated exclusively in this negative space, and it doesn't expand beyond. So it makes it almost like it flattens that section. You have warmth on the left side and warmth on the right side. And in between, it's just kind of like contained. So it segregates that space, and it doesn't really integrate it with the spaces that you created outside on the background. So I would say just bring some of the warmth, and then at the same time, still that outside or on the other side of the stock. So it just creates the idea that it's behind them.
Okay. I definitely wanted to work on that again, and I was still confused because it's tricky. It's strange because it's, I guess they call that maybe a juxtaposition where things just don't make sense. Like it kind of works in a photograph because it actually happened, but to recreate it, just like things don't match up. They don't look like they should belong there.
Right. No, I think it's just like, it's much better than the photograph. I mean, the mushrooms, the way you painted the mushrooms, it's brilliant. So good job on that. And then, yeah, just a few more touches. Yeah. So.
Okay. I got what you said though. That makes perfect sense. Like I've isolated that center section and it needs to like become part of the whole thing, not just like that center area.
I think that alone, that's gonna just kick it up a notch.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Mushrooms, and spaceships. They look like spaceships. They're so good.
Yeah, I think so. It's just beautiful. And you know, they're foreshortened, so this was challenging in that sense. So I think you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Really, really. So yeah, I'm just gonna you added them. Jen, did you should I refresh? You added them in the folder.
So if you go to the photograph of the woman holding the baby.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so right there, if you click on that in the comments, so the first one I believe that's the article in the New Yorker, but the second one is the actual gallery.
Oh, any other, did you actually check the gallery? I'm gonna open it. Whoa.
Yeah, so it's basically all of her work, and then you just click on what you want to see. So
wow,
this is her Forever Mothers. I know that.
Oh yeah, different series.
Yeah.
Wow, these are, I love this image. This is beautiful. Wow. These are incredible.
The older ones are even harder, I think.
It's beautiful. I love this one.
Yeah.
Love this one. So, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, seriously. I mean, the matching t-shirts.
I know.
Wow. I mean, matching that. Whoa, this is so incredible. Feels very classical in the background and stuff.
Yeah, like it's a christening.
Wow.
Just wonder the stories behind all of these.
I mean, intense. Whoa.
Right? So real.
I think it's absolutely amazing because it's so shocking, but at the same time treated with such wow. I know, yeah, this image was really powerful in the New Yorker. Yeah, there's so much that I would like to ask, you know. But yeah.
And you said that picture, the first one, the one of the
train.
The train, that's her. That's the
her.
Artist.
Yes.
And is she one of the Forever Mothers, or did she?
She's the only one in that series. She's the only one. I mean, is that what you asked?
No, sorry. I just mean, does she also sort of like subscribe to this sort of behavior? Like, does she have a doll?
Know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because at the beginning I thought this was almost super controversial in that sense.
Right.
Because I'm not sure if she is trying to speak about motherhood in positive ways or
Mhm.
or not. I mean, it's just and I think that's what art sometimes it's supposed to do, kind of like be open-ended in that sense. Um,
Yeah. No,
but
I mean, this is a huge conversation. And it
right,
seems, you know, that I would say the majority of them have such sorrow on their faces. But then you do see um, some of the mothers that have, you know, so much joy,
right,
like this, for example.
right. Yeah, it would be interesting. Actually, I'm interested in finding out exactly how she presents the work because it could go either way. Either way, it
Mhm.
could even feel like almost excluding and not an inclusive body of work in which she could only focuses on motherhood and purposely leaves everything, every experience beyond that out. Or it could be something that could be really inclusive in regards of like talking about missing something or substituting
Right.
something.
Right.
I don't know. I just because in a way, I don't know when these were done, but now with such conversation about how motherhood, it's not the only thing that defines the female experience.
Hmm.
And this is so focused on that.
Right.
So at first I was like, whoa, this is kind of like excluding or not
Mhm.
inclusive. But then
Right.
I read a little bit about this emptiness syndrome that she talks about and stuff, and just changed my mind a little bit. And then
Mm.
I thought the image of the dad, but I don't know if these are like real people with dolls that they actually, or just like models. I don't know.
It feels real.
That would be mind blowing. These are like actually
Yeah.
real people with, that would be mind blowing.
Feels pretty real.
Wow. Yeah. Anyhow, so going down, I know Lois, I don't know if you are still there.
I
Are you still
don't
there?
think she is. I looked a few minutes ago. Yeah, she's not here.
Okay. Um, sorry. Anyhow, yeah, I was just anyhow. So if let me just kind of like say before concluding the session, and I can just give feedback uh, outside of it on the post. But one of the things that I didn't mention uh, in the things that I was looking for and the articles that I read is that there was a comment by someone on Reddit. Reddit is another one of those like rabbit holes that sometimes I look into, and a person was posting something, being really confused because she was older and she slept with a pillow, her favorite pillow, and she slept with a pillow as if it was a person. And she was concerned that because of her age, there was something wrong with her because she was kind of like embracing the pillow and she treated the pillow as somebody. And then there were dozens and dozens of comments of people that were saying, nope, that's exactly how I feel. I kiss my pillow, I hold my pillow. So I didn't have time to mention that, but I think it's also a thing, I guess, to have a pillow. So it's maybe it's we're freaking out because these dolls are so realistic, but perhaps the feeling of that um, holding onto something or embracing it may come down to just grabbing your own pillow and holding it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that body pillows are a big deal.
Body pillows, what's that?
It's basically a very long, narrow pillow that's pretty much like the length of your bed. I got one when I was pregnant um, because the weight of my stomach, I needed like something to prop it up, and plus, like you have so much weight, like your hips hurt. Julie's like, I gotta leave. But anyway, it's just a good like a cushion to have, basically, that you hold on to
Yeah, yeah,
for like,
support.
a sense of weight, but it's in support, exactly. But my mom still has a body pillow. Yeah, that she's obviously not pregnant or, and things like that. She just likes holding on to it. And we call him Bill. Oh my God.
I love it.
Kill me.
Listen,
Oh.
after I read that string of comments, I think this is very, very common.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, yeah, and she was super thankful, but I just think that's very common.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyhow, so that I'm glad I brought it up, and now we know about Bill.
Bill. He has a whole song and everything.
Really?
Yeah, you know that song? It's like from the 50s or 60s, and it's like, Bill, I love you so, I always will. So whenever I see that pillow, I sing that
I
song.
think that was, that's right. That's from I think the Fifth Dimension, right? Fifth Dimension
Yes,
wrote
thank
that
you,
song.
Dina. Help me here.
The Fifth Dimension wrote that song. And, I think the fact of hugging, whether it's your dog, your
Mhm.
cushion, your pillow. My mom, I got her a Sheba looking pillow because I had read that, like just children, they like to hold a blanket, right? That's security. And my mom, when she would get scared, I thought maybe that might help. So I bought her this plush Sheba, and the people where she stays at, they said she just loves that. She brings it all over with her, carries it with her in the wheelchair, and I think it will calm them down, just their anxiety level. So I think the first thing people are going to do when it's safe to do so is we're going to find people that we're so close to and just can't wait to hug them. Just that simple gesture, it just means so much. And so whether it's people that are lost children or wish they could have a child, or like your mom and her pillow, I mean, hey, it serves a purpose, and therefore it is important. So.
Yeah, no, it's yes, yeah,
And it's
Yep.
it's it's bad that people should make fun of things like that.
yeah.
They shouldn't. That's wrong. That's
Actually, that's what I've learned, because we make fun and of behaviors that we think that they stem from some sort of like disorder, when in fact maybe we have some things that are so rooted in the human experience that
right.
not only we shouldn't make fun of them, but we should kind of like, I wouldn't say encourage, but not look at them
Their
under,
acceptance. Yeah, they're
right, accept.
acceptance. Like in the United States, right? If you cry or you show kind of a empathy and emotion, then that's a sign of weakness. That's wrong. That's wrong. When you go to different countries, men are not ashamed to show their tears when they're hurt or they're sad. So you're right, exactly what you said. There's a certain stereotype or what you're
Mhm.
brought up to think a certain way. And humanity has a whole basis of just being kind,
Right,
respectful and kind, just
right,
those two things, respectful and kind,
right.
and it can go a long way. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
So good, so good. As usual,
Well said.
so much that now I'm able to reflect upon and think. I'm just gonna look into what she says about these images. I'm curious to find out if there's an interview with the artist. I'm talking about the artist.
Mhm.
But and I'll share also the pillows, the comments about people, because when you read the actual comments, it warms your heart, because these are like people that just open up their experience, and they just talk about, yeah, their how they sleep, and like such a private moment, and how they have a pillow to hug and kiss and talk. Some people talk to their pillows,
Right.
and so I just find it so fascinating and human.
It's people who have contained their emotions and for fear they're going to be made fun of about it. And it just domino effects into manifests itself into greater problems. And that's the hang up that society has. You know, there's a certain norm. So hopefully we just get the ball rolling of more acceptance and inclusiveness and diversity, all of that together going forward. And we're going to start 2021 on a better foot than we did on 2020.
Oh,
So.
man. Amen. So yeah, well, at least we're doing the work. So every week we become more aware of things. So I'm really proud of the work we do and digging and sort of like talking about issues. So apart from painting.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Guys.
Really appreciate it. Good job. Continue if you can working, and happy Friday, and have a lovely weekend. Stay home and avoid those crazy people out there if you can.
Thanks, guys. See
Thanks
you
again.
next week.
Bye. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
I'll send a
Bye,
schedule.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.